What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the Monster Mucker here. And we're back with episode 14 of my little bullshit series, whatever you call it, I don't know. I'm out here collecting some sand. We're going to blow up the nether while I'm doing this, so that should be fun. But, yeah, I just watched what I think was, or is, not really was, I guess whatever. I watched what I think is the most profound YouTube video from like a life philosophy standpoint I think I've ever seen. If I remember when I published this video, I'll link it, but it was basically this like, I don't know, like Slovakian cognitive scientist. I don't know the accent really well, so I'm probably being offensive to whatever nationality the guy actually is, but I don't really care. I'll link his video, so go fuck yourself. But anyway, it was really applicable to me too, just because I'm kind of learning a lot about like the exact like algorithms and systems that he's using. But basically, he talked about he had these like agents that were. I'm gonna do a shit job explaining this, so I'd recommend just going to watch the video if you want to be in the know-how of what the fuck I'm talking about. But basically, he described this. He used the metaphor of these intelligent agents like searching for a global maxima. A global maxima on like a surface. So think about like a flat surface of any kind, and then imagine there's like hills and valleys, just like there is on, I don't know, any surface really. There's like hills and valleys, and basically he used that as a metaphor to describe like life and essentially searching for the optimal point, right? So like the best of whatever. Again, I'm doing a shit job explaining this. Maybe once I get on a roll here, I'll do a better job of trying to conceptualize it. But basically, so he had this agent that doesn't like see the whole environment, right? So there's like this area where there's ups and downs, and it's essentially it's looking for the highest peak, right? So kind of like in life, you're spawned at some random location, and you're kind of, whether aimlessly or very strategically moving around trying to find the highest peak. This doesn't necessarily have to do anything with money in terms of the highest peak or any like. This is just the highest peak, right? It could really take on whatever context you want, but as a special collective, right? We're searching for the highest peak. Again, whatever that peak represents, prosperity, wealth, health, I don't know, leisure, I don't know. The peak could be anything. Anyway, in a lot of the same ways, this agent that he had was spawned on some random part of the surface, which has these hills and valleys, and ultimately somewhere, which we don't, I guess as the creator of the map you would know, but as the agent you don't really know where the highest or lowest peak is. You just have the information available to you, like really where you're at and whether the areas nearby to you are higher or lower than your current knowledge. Anyway, he essentially goes, he uses the same strategy of like artificial intelligent agents in terms of like coding, like you would when you're actually programming something. Whether that be a game like a chess bot or a checkers bot or something, where it's essentially it's a search, right? You're searching for the best move. You're searching for the best sequence of moves to lead you to victory, right? So I just made like a Sudoku bot for one of my classes. So a bot that would solve a Sudoku puzzle. And essentially what it is it's there are like infinitely many, or there's one solution, right? The solution is to solve Sudoku, but like the order in which you solve them and sometimes has a lot more than just one way, but ultimately it could be thought of as a search problem where your algorithm is searching move by move to reach the final state. And ultimately, like if a move, if your algorithm determines a move as being bad, it won't do it. And if it says it's good, it'll do it, right? So just kind of basic logic there. But in the same way, this agent that spawned on on this playing field where there's hills and valleys and whatever, is has the information around it to try and form their idea of a what's the best solution. And ultimately, like the first algorithm, I'm not going to take you through the whole video. I encourage you to watch it if you're interested. But the first algorithm is the agent would take, in this case you could think of it as the person is taking really, really small steps, right, and just kind of deciding if the step like right next to it is better than where it's at currently, and if it is, they'll take the step. Otherwise, they won't, right? And they just kind of use this very sorry, this lava's pissed me off. This very kind of basic, low-level intelligent algorithm to decide, okay, is up, right, left, or down, like which one's the best kind of thing. They also did variants on like the size of the step. So I realize that the language he used is probably a little bit problematic if you're politically influenced, but he used like liberal and conservative for the conservatives being the agents that took very, very small steps. So they took very, very like small jumps, and it's much more visually appealing when you actually see the simulation. And the liberals were the ones that took the huge steps, right? So they kind of took the larger risks. And ultimately, what they noticed early on, especially if you're taking smaller steps, so fewer risks and just smaller movements in the entire space. Is ultimately that you get stuck on these local minima, which was is a problem in like AI algorithms. Like you don't want to get stuck on a local minimum, which is basically like a small hill, right? Because if you're on top of a very, very small hill in your area, I mean, technically all the, depending on your jump size, all the like areas around you are going to be worse than your current location. So your best strategy would be to like not move that much because you're already at like the best spot. But ultimately, because you only have that information that's very nearby to you, you don't realize that you're on some small ass shitty hill, right? Instead of like the big mountain that is, that should be your ideal goal because that's way better, right? So that's like the idea behind a local minima, and he kind of used it as a metaphor of life, in that you can think of life as a search for a global maxima. It's not really attainable in the sense that it's not like we're not gonna even know if he reached a global maxima. And that was kind of the point he got towards at the end of the video, where even though we might think that we're on a because think about, even to the conservative agents, we're at the global maxima once we're on that little hill, right? But because we can see the whole field, we're kind of playing God in this scenario. We can confidently say that we're nowhere close to the global maxima. Might be, planets and planets away. But, to you, the little hill looks like it's as good as it's going to get, right? I just found it really, really interesting. I'm not really going to talk about it too much more because I'm not really doing justice to the brilliance of the video itself. But I wanted to articulate how beautifully I think the metaphor applies to our situation as humans and just like intelligent life. And he drew a lot of connections between the strategies used in AI algorithms, so like solving Sudoku and chess, and like the same strategy used to that. and really bringing it into a more social context, in terms of how, you know, socially we interact and work towards higher goals. So even the role of competition and collaboration was touched on, the spreading of information, I guess the importance of reproduction as well. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was really beautiful, really nice the way that they, this dude, this dude articulated everything and just made it all very applicable, I think, to our situation. I don't know. Go watch the video. It's super nice. I think it's called like Escape from Global Minima, like the solution for everything or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't even have that many views. It has like, I don't really know how many views it has. I don't even know why it got recommended to me. I think it got recommended because I was like Googling videos on like understanding search algorithms and stuff. And that's like related because it was, the crux of it is basically, the first few weeks of an AI course where you're kind of learning about what intelligent agents are. And agent's just a fancy word for like the computer bot, right? You can call it a bot, I guess, but agent is like the word that, the engineers use because it's, I don't know why. It was scientists as a whole just pick weird ass words to run with and to use for everything. So agent is the word they've decided. You can just call it a bot if you want to. I don't. It doesn't really matter that much. But anyway, I thought I would share how interesting I thought that video was. I'd probably, if I'd given myself more time to digest it, I'd have probably a lot more interesting things to say. Because quite honestly, I'm just still digesting my lunch. I don't know why I do these videos after I eat. Because that's my least articulate time of day. That's where I struggle to even form a sentence. And I guess it's always when I have a nicely positioned hour-long period where I can feasibly do one of these. And it's also when I just want to do nothing and watch YouTube videos. So it ends up being my kind of when I do them, even though it's probably not best from a content perspective, but I don't know. It is what it is. You guys can suffer while I try to find a sentence throughout all my chaos. But yeah, super interesting stuff. I was really glad I stumbled upon it. Of course, after I said the whole point of this is to stop watching YouTube videos. I guess every once in a while that's what's beautiful about the internet is most of it's shit. A solid 99% of it's garbage. Like content like this, why would you even bother watching this video? I mean, it's pointless. But every once in a while, sorry, I had a sip of beverage. Every once in a while, you stumble upon just some piece of content that is, just makes, for an instant, it justifies all the time you've spent wasting doing, watching shitty content. And to me, this is just one of those things where it's, sometimes it's a meme, sometimes it's, I don't know, anything else. But for an instant, it justifies all the time wasted on everything that is garbage. So, I don't know. I thought I would share that to see if maybe anyone else had any other pieces of internet content that justify the internet's existence in their minds. Because that's ultimately what it is. I think it's, to a certain point, you just want to say the internet shouldn't exist. Obviously, you hope it exists when you're doing homework or whatever. You need it. But then, most of the time when it's, sucking your time away or there's just BS that you have to watch or, I don't know, you're addicted to some stupid type of internet content you just wish didn't exist. But, videos like those are what justifies its existence and obviously helping with whatever. Communication, too, is another justification of the internet's existence. Beyond that, it's all pretty much a cesspool of garbage. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but I want to discuss it in some more detail. is the I don't know, especially for young people, this is a lot more of an issue than maybe for older, more established veterans of the world. And it's like just the whole idea behind the imposter syndrome. Because at least for me, I have these weird periods of time where I feel like an absolute genius, right? I feel like I'm, without being sounding too much like a fucking narcissist. I feel like I'm the fucking smartest person alive. I feel like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk had a baby. I just feel so freaking smart. And then at the same time, there's also days and periods of time that last longer than a day. Sometimes they're brief, sometimes they're perpetual, where I'm like, I might be like unbelievably stupid. Like I might be the dumbest person to have ever walked the planet. And obviously I know neither of those are true, right? They're both wrong. I'm not nearly as dumb as I think I am in those moments. And I'm never as smart as I think I am in those moments. And I think if it's ever a dominant, a dominant thing, I guess, in your life is where it, I don't know what the fuck that was, but if it's ever like a dominant presence where you're like always feeling stupid or you're always feeling smart, like I think if you're always feeling smarter or superior or better or whatever it is, that you're a narcissist. But if you're always feeling stupid, then maybe it's depression, maybe it's just imposter syndrome to the nth degree. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But if you exist on the extremes consistently, I think that's where it's probably psychologists call it a disorder or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but I think there's you should live in a healthy mix, but it's also tough to deal with the highs and the lows. I suppose it's not nearly as tough to deal with the highs because you just feel fucking smart, right? Whereas the lows, you're like, I should be doing manual labor right now. There's nothing. That's my max, right? That's the best thing I'm capable of in society is doing manual labor. And that's like, honestly, some days that's really as smart as I feel. Like I should be cutting grass. I don't think I can do anything other than cut grass. And the other days I'm like, the people that run the rocket ships at NASA, they're not that smart. Right? I could do that, and obviously you don't want to take either of those ideas and run with it, because then, on one hand, you'll just kind of always doubt yourself and, I guess succeed or fail to your lowest lows. But then you also don't want to, bite off more than you can chew. And I guess it's always better to listen to that more ambitious person just to see if you're even capable of it, right? So if you really think it's not that hard to be a NASA engineer or something, then go fucking try. Let them shoot you down, I guess. I guess that's better than just like giving up and applying for a job at McDonald's. So in some ways you should listen to the periods of narcissism versus the periods of, imposter. But either way, they're both wrong, right? You're not, I'm really speaking to myself here. I'm not speaking to anyone. But it's weird. It's also not even the environment. You might think that it's like, okay, well, maybe when you're around really, really smart people, you feel dumb. And then if you're around really dumb people, you might feel smart. That's not even true. Like, I feel like there's times where I know I'm around complete idiots and I still feel stupider than they do. Or times where I'm around smart people and I'm like, these guys are all morons. It's not cut that simply, because then you can just say, well, I'm around the wrong people. There's just truly a big variety with it, which makes it hard to control to a certain degree. I don't know. It's an interesting idea that I think is pervasive. I think mostly for young people. I think by the time you get old, you have a lot better idea of, what you can and can't do, which I think is, can be a bad thing, right? I think if you are just always super aware of what you're capable of, you don't ever really challenge yourself that much. So in some ways, I I'd be okay. I wouldn't be happy per se, living in this, a seemingly perpetual state of feeling too smart and too stupid. Because that's, the times where you feel smart, it makes you want to challenge. Oh shit. It makes you want to challenge yourself to see if like, oh, am I actually this smart? And then you try something, and you're like, okay, I'm not. I learned that. Versus if you get old and then decide it's like, okay, well, I now know I'm too stupid to do X, Y, or Z, so I'm just not even gonna try because that's it kind of gets this like fixed and growth mindset. I think if you are like I don't know, very much like a growth mindset person where it's like I can learn anything. You're a lot more susceptible to these periods of I'm an idiot and the periods of I'm a genius. Oh shit. But I don't know. Either way, I don't necessarily view it all as a bad thing. Just because I think there is challenging yourself is really important. That's why I've said that before. In any way, in order to challenge yourself and to learn new things. I've said this before, but in order to feel smart about something, I feel like you have to feel dumb, like 100 times over, right? Like, in order for you to get to a point where you're like, I know what the fuck I'm doing, like, get out of my way, like, let me figure this out, I got it, versus like, what the actual shit am I doing? We've all been there with different things, especially like the first time using, I don't know, some kind of software. I'm assuming the first time I saw an Excel sheet, I was like, what is going on? Am I, especially like, I don't know, coding languages is also, I think, is a lot of times like, for the first time coding, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Who's entrusted this technology to a complete layman and me who's I don't know anything, right? And at this point, if it's a new language, I'm not scared of it, right? Can't be that hard, right? People a lot stupider than me have done a lot more. I've actually said that a lot. That's like something that's a staple comment in my repertoire, right? Somebody a lot dumber than me has done a lot more. And, I guess it's affirmed every time I see one of these, like, stupid, like, crypto bro things, like, start some Ponzi scheme or something that makes, like, $10 billion. It's like, that is, quite easily the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, from a like, value perspective, right? It's worth literally nothing. Like, you didn't have a product, you didn't have any, like, you had nothing, and somehow you managed to, I don't know, convince people or do something, but somehow you're like successful in the eyes of everyone, but it's like, you didn't do anything, like you're an idiot. Other times you see people who have spent, decades trying to make some scientific breakthrough and never have, and like those person's brilliant as they come, but then it's like, he's garnered no respect for himself, right? So all the respect that the crypto bro has, should be entrusted on this guy, because this guy's clearly put more effort and really done everything better in his craft than this, glorified Ponzi scheme. I guess that's how it works. So I guess you just want to live in the middle. Never get too high, never get too low. That's pretty standard advice anyway, but sometimes it is hard to, I don't know, really apply and live by that, just because it's like you want to stay high and you want to avoid lows, but then it's, regardless of where you are, you still find a way to deal with highs and lows, right? I mean, unless you're like hooked on a morphine drip, but but generally speaking, you're going to have highs and lows no matter what, and regardless of how high or how low you get, you're still going to have highs and lows. So I would imagine if I'm still homeless, I'm still going to deal with periods where I'm like, being homeless is awesome. I'm the best homeless guy there is. And then there's times where I'd be like, all right, I'm homeless. This is ass. Hoping I'm not ever going to get there, but I don't know, man. Predicting the future is a very, very hard and a mostly futile endeavor. And even the video I talks about that, like the whole like aspect of intelligence is to try and generalize. The whole idea of intelligence is generalizing your experience and trying to apply it in new experiences, right? So kind of just learning, having memory, and making decisions. That's ultimately what intelligence of any kind is, whether it's artificial or real. And some of that is you have to just trust your experience, right? Like if you are working with a computer, right, and you feed it like input data, right? So like, a couple test cases or whatever, it's going to try and use that to generalize it for the next case. And if you give it a purposefully tricky one the next time, it's probably going to get it wrong, right? But since we have all these, emotions attached to it and expectations, we can't assume we're ever going to be right or wrong with any of our predictions, because it's foolish. It's not realistic. And I think it's especially important to note, which I guess brings me to the next point of for a while I was questioning the exact function of, I guess, evolutionarily speaking, of our emotions and why we have like we attach. I guess it's in essence we are. I've said before that in essence we are illogical creatures. We don't function entirely based off logic, but like why is that? What evolutionary function does happiness, sadness, pride, what do any of those really serve? Especially in like a social context. I mean, how did those develop and why did they develop? If that makes sense, right? I mean, I don't know. Like I think pain makes sense, right? Pain makes sense, and like satiation makes sense. So like eating and sleeping and reproducing, that stuff makes sense why it would make it pleasurable. But ultimately, animals experience those same. I guess do you call those emotions, right? We know that to some extent animals feel pain, right? And they also feel pleasure, so they'll like do things that are painful and pleasurable, because that's how they're going to survive. But why would one get a sense of guilt or anguish or pressure or just kind of these other more complexly and loosely defined emotions that are seem to be unique to the human experience, at least to our knowledge, just because we can't register in detail all the emotions of a goldfish or something, but we imagine there's some sense of award, when they eat or when they do anything. Otherwise, there'd be no point in them doing it. They just wouldn't do anything. They just, exist and die. But do they feel a sense of anguish and remorse or confusion or what is it? I don't know, like these more complex emotions that seem to be unique to humans. Like, are they unique to humans, right? Do dogs feel a sense of, or is it on a spectrum, or is it on like a continuum, right? Where it's like, I don't know, goldfish might have two emotions, like good, bad. Like eating is good, dying is bad, or something like that, or I don't know. Or maybe it's just good and lack of good is bad. I don't know. There's a whole theory behind that like bad is just, or pain is just like I guess I don't know. But then do dogs have like 10 emotions, and then like humans have 40 billion or something? I don't is it like that, or is it more or is it more binary? Is it less binary? I don't know. It's weird. I don't think anyone really has the answers to those. I certainly don't. But I even think some leading expert on emotions is still going to come up with some wishy-washy answer, and not going to be it's not going to be clear-cut exactly what they're trying to say, because it's, they can do as many fMRI tests as they want. You ultimately don't know what's going on in the brain half the time. So any amount of conjecture on, humans have exactly 13,000 emotions. It's like, I don't buy it. Like, when you show me, like, is that just 13,000 different brain signalings that we get when we live day to day? Like, what's to say that's even accurate? in terms of like, how did you define one emotion? Like, is it a, because we haven't defined thought. We don't know what a thought is, right? Much less a feeling. I mean, I don't know. Are feelings easier to detect than thoughts? There's just a lot of questions that linger, I think, when for thinking about that, and especially the evolutionary, like, function of those kind of emotions. So, like, think about, like, the emotion that gets me is like secondhand embarrassment. You know, you've seen that where it's like someone's doing something and you're like, inside you're like, oh my God, stop. Like, you know, Michael from The Office, whenever he's talking or doing anything, it's like, dude, please shut up. Like, why does that exist, right? What function does that serve? You know, even like in a community, I don't know, like what, it just doesn't seem particularly, I don't know, useful, from like a biology perspective, and even from like a social perspective. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you know, jump in and help to make them look less stupid or something, you know, or to like stop watching. I don't know. It's not painful. It's not really causing anyone any harm. It's just like, I don't know, they're embarrassing themselves. I don't know. It's hard to really like grab onto an idea there. Just with how nebulous they are, and I still don't think that we've you know, adequately defined what thoughts or emotions are from a scientific, chemically significant standpoint, right? We have rough ideas on what, you know, what regulates what, but even the, you know, the prescription drugs themselves are more probably, what's the word I'm looking for here? Anecdotal in nature. You know, given that the clinical trials are like, oh, we gave this to rats and they were good, right? They were fine. They had better, their numbers look better, I guess. And then, you know, they're like, okay, we gave them on some humans and their numbers look better, so therefore the numbers are good. Like, let's roll it. But you don't really know. It's not an exact science, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of guesstimation that goes on. And that's not to say we should stop everything and be 100% certain, because I just think certainty in itself is a nebulous concept, right? Being completely certain is not really realistic in really any scenario. You know, certainty. What is certainty? How do you define something as certainty, right? Then you can just go levels and levels deep and not really go anywhere, which is why I think it's, God, I just keep like burping. Which is why it's hard to even like speak in any kind of I don't know, sense of certainty, just because it's not really it's not scientific, I guess. Just because we haven't defined it. I don't know. There's just a lot that goes into it. And it's interesting to think about, in the least. But yeah. Anyway, maybe at some point I'll go through the video that I'm talking about here and just discuss it in more detail and put some more thought into it. But it was one that I thought brought up a lot of points that I talk about often, just about you know, what direction to go. Because I guess I'm more fixated than most on this idea of I guess the way they phrase it in the video is some kind of you know, global maxima of you know, life or happiness or satisfaction or something, and you know, sort of the procedural, you know, way to get there, I guess, for lack of a better word, because I guess most people just live their life and don't give a fuck about it, right? They don't really care, which is probably honestly the more efficient route, is just to don't think about it, right? You know, like all these what if questions that you could ask that, you know, ultimately don't really have great answers. You know, the best answer is just to don't ask them, right? And don't think about it. But it's hard. I think naturally we have a inclination to ask hard questions and try to reason with ourselves. That's exactly what I'm doing in this whole, like, this whole like series is me just asking pretty nebulous, difficult questions and just kind of rumbling around and fumble fucking with bad and good answers. Which I mean, I don't know, it is kind of I guess it's a waste of time in the sense that there's not like anything that valuable, but I guess in a lot of ways it's just the way it's framed in the video is just trying to explore ideas in the same way that the agents are exploring the space, right? And in a lot of ways, the ideas that one gathers, the ideas being my personal experiences kind of condensed into a series of actionable insights based off of my experience. That is important data, and sharing that can be useful to other agents in the space, other people. So I guess that's why sharing ideas has value to anyone, right? Otherwise, it's like we'd all just be better off saying nothing ever. No one should say anything. They should all just shut up. Some people probably should shut up because they're stupid. Because they're stupid. I just joke about that. But in general, I think it is good to try and share ideas based off of an experience, just because and again, most of them don't mean anything, and they're just as stupid or invalid as the others. Even like, historically or like profound and great ideas are, they're rendered useless after a while, right? Or they're just wrong after a while. Even if they're wrong in the absolute sense, the way that they're stretching and kind of, challenging our notions, I think is a helpful piece of it. I think that's kind of the point of stuff like this, is to just challenge and think, instead of trying to arrive at any actual conclusions. Because generally there just aren't great answers to a lot of things. So, trying to wait for the best answer versus just trying to either accept ambiguity or just accept an answer that's, good enough for now is, probably half of the strategy, quite honestly. So as to not waste, I guess your whole time trying to figure everything out, and got to spend a certain amount of it just, I don't know, dicking around, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting the way that they framed that in that video. But I don't know why I thought I stopped talking about that like 20 minutes ago, but it just keeps showing up on my text sheet. But anyway, yeah, I guess another thing on the guise of being too introspective on different things and just like wasting my time thinking about stuff versus just existing, right? So not, challenging some greater sense of authority or whatever, or lack thereof. I don't know if this ever happened to anyone else. I guess it's relatable in that way, but maybe not. You ever like look forward to something? Maybe it's like a party or an event or some kind of milestone or something, and then I don't know, you spend a lot of time, more time than maybe the actual event is. Like, think about like you spend like a month planning for a party, right? And you spend however many hours during that time thinking of that party. Maybe the party's, in reality, the party's only going to be like, I guess what you're assuming to be an orgasmic 2 hours of fun. I don't know, depending on what kind of party it is, it might be, but but you spend a lot more than that thinking about, I don't know, the logistics and how you're going to maximize your fun or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just a party. This can be anything. This is just I'm thinking of it in that way. And then like the time comes around where you're actually like, it's go time, right? It's the event. Like let's begin, to, I don't know, enjoy it or something. Especially like, yeah. And then you're kind of at this point where it's like, well, all right, is this it? Like, is this really what I was, all excited about? And it's kind of depressing in the sense that it's like having expectations for something, right? Because I think part of what planning is in a certain way is just creating expectations for something, and expectations for a trip, expectations for a party. Generally speaking, expectations are just built to be disappointed, I guess, if you want to think of it in that way. And because the whole time you're sitting there thinking, oh well, I spent all this time preparing and thinking about and getting ready for this great party, right? Well, is this it? Is this the party? Is this what I was looking forward to? And I was like, I don't know, is it as great as I thought it was? Probably not. It's just kind of, I'm not really doing anything that much different than I would be doing at work, but I guess it's just the mental state you're supposed to be in, right? And I think me having that kind of is this it, thought is counterintuitive or counterproductive, really, to the goal of the party, which is just to relax and enjoy yourself. But the more time you kind of questioning, is this really what I was looking forward to all this time? Is just this dopey party or something, or event or something, right? Because maybe it's not a part, maybe it's a trip. I don't know. People like plan trips and stuff, and then the trip comes around and they realize that they had probably spent more time or even as just as much enjoyment in planning and thinking about the trip than they did actually going on the damn trip, right? Which is a hard reality, and it kind of is what it ruins the whole point of fun, right? Because you're kind of supposed to let loose, and the planning's over, you're supposed to just enjoy it, but then it's you're kind of just still thinking, the gears are still turning, right? And there's not really a way to just turn that off. I don't know, it's kind of a lapse in human design, as if I was some god that could control the design of mental thought in humans. But I guess that's the way a lot of us are wired, is they just can't stop thinking about stuff. They're always just in kind of problem solving mode, and that a lot of times creates more problems than you're actually solving with that, especially when you're trying to calculate the amount of fun you're supposed to be having, because it's hard to recognize when you're at the peak. And it goes to the same idea of the good old days are always behind you type of thing, where you're always kind of looking forward, it's hard to just look in and look now, because it's what's the next thing I'm looking forward to, what's the next thing. And I've always said that you need something to be looking forward to, especially if you're not in a great state of mind, at present. Maybe you're busy with doing shit. Maybe it's hard at work or whatever. Schoolwork's hard or something. I don't know, whatever it is. You always want to be kind of looking forward, and that's been helpful just because you want to be in a better space later. But let's say you reach the space, and maybe there's a month where you're not really thinking about what's next, or a year where you're not thinking about what's next, but eventually it comes around. And sometimes it's the midlife crisis for people that they finally realize that they've been just content for so long, or they just kind of forgot about everything else that they were looking forward to or thinking of doing just one day. Or I said I was going to write a book or run for president, and now what? I don't know, it's a tough reality, because you certainly don't want to be thinking thinking present all the time and never looking forward. Otherwise you're that there's a lot of problems that come with that. I don't even have to start naming them. You can kind of think, if you're never looking forward to what's next, or how's this going to be, oh my god, how's this going to be better, or how's life going to get better or worse? What happens here? Jesus Christ. Fuck you. But it's just problematic to always be thinking ahead, because it's hard to live in the moment. As much as I hate that saying, I mean, my God, but it is, to a certain extent, it is, it's a thing. People, you can live in the moment, as much as I think it's kind of a woo-woo thing to run off and talk about. And especially harder one to control, right? I can sit here and say I'm living in the moment, but, just the whole, people that are just uber optimistic all the time, It's our life's not that great all the time, right? You're full of shit. at the same time, it's not all doom and gloom all the time, right? There's just happy balance. So really, the true brilliant, the true like perfection, I guess, is in like this perfect balance, yin yang. And they get all Japanese, but maybe that is like the true balance, right? Is kind of having this great level of suffering, amidst pleasure, right? And to have this kind of even juncture. And maybe that doesn't mean to purposefully schedule like, oh yeah, 2 p.m. today I'm gonna chop off one of my toes or something, because that'll be painful. It's like, okay, then I'm gonna have this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it works in that way. I think a lot of it is probably out of your control in terms of, what are the metaphorical toe choppings that you have to deal with, and what are going to be some of the more, again, pardon my shitty articulation here, but the more orgasmic kind of awesome, life is worth living events that, we have the pleasure of indulging in every once in a while, right? They're not always planned either, right? Kind of the best times are sometimes the most spontaneous ones, where it's just kind of all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, that was actually fucking awesome, and there wasn't a bit of thought that went into it, right? And especially when you're trying to prepare, when you're saying, oh, this is going to be awesome, is when it often is the most lackluster, in my opinion. So I guess it goes back to the idea of, what do you just do nothing then, I guess, and just kind of wait for stuff to happen? Or do you like try and be proactive about creating opportunity for both good and bad things to happen, right? Like creating opportunity for toe choppings, right? You're not going to go out and chop your toe off, but make it where it's, a toe chopping is a possible reality of your, possible result, as well as, maybe those, an actual like party enjoyable thing is also possible, right? So, but I think controlling it is hard. Maybe we have some control over the opportunities we can create, but there's not really a scientific way to do that, is there? To create a spot or create something that has a equally chance of an equal in proportion and in likelihood chance of success or failure. So like, do you kind of, but is it also, I don't know, is it better on the small scale or the large scale, right? Do you try and create, catastrophic life failures, which then are theoretically offset by life successes that are worth everything? Or do you just take tiny risks, right? Do you go to your favorite restaurant, but then order something shitty to like, offset the balance? You got your favorite place, but you're eating shit that you're allergic to or something. I don't know. Not that's obviously a stupid example, but I'm trying to bring it into a broader context, just in terms of life's challenges, right? I'm not saying to like every time you do something you want to do, just do something you don't like to match with it. That's not at all what I'm saying. In fact, I'm mad that I'm even reaching that conclusion. Jesus, what am I trying to plant here? I mean, it is interesting. There probably are several strategies you can come up with to maximize the good and bad. I mean, maybe it's the same rules like in investing, right? It's like when you're young, you want to be as risky in terms of investing that you want, and then as you get older, you kind of want to reduce your risks and reduce your liabilities and maximize your assets theoretically. So does that mean when you're young, I guess people have arrived at this conclusion already, but you kind of take the risks and do the stuff that's high risk, high reward while you're young, and then as you begin to cement yourself and whatever that may be is when you kind of settle in and get the begin trying to mitigate your liability. So you're going to have less fun because there's I don't know, less involved or something, but You're ultimately going to lose less if you fuck up. And I guess it applies really well in money, where it's like, you can kind of see whether it's a success or a failure. But especially in other things where the context and the decision is more nebulous, like what to do with your life, right? I think then it becomes a lot harder to actually judge success or failure, especially when even the results of success or failure are these internal cues, right? Like how you felt or something, or how you feel every day or something. That's kind of the measure of success or something, which is a hard like metric, right? Like what, I don't mean to say this too much, but what the fuck does that mean, right? I don't know. It's an interesting thought and idea that I'm sure you could trying to extrapolate into some strategies or ideas that are more actionable, but it is still a very hard thing, I think, to define and especially to advise over. Very complex problem that both involves more thinking and less thinking. And the strategy of when and where is hard. Also, the control of when and where is hard. Like I'm very aware of times where I should just stop thinking, right? But then that's oftentimes where you like think the most, right? And same where it's like, you need your brain to work, but then it's like doing the whole Windows 10 shutdown thing where it's like, come on, what the hell are you doing? Think, motherfucker. So it's like, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to control. It's hard to predict. Or I should stop saying it's not hard. It's impossible to control. And it's not impossible. It's impossible to predict. It's hard to control. It's difficult to understand, but, even the idea itself can be simplified somewhat well, right? And maybe, are we converging on a better idea of it all, or are we straying farther from the best ideas? I don't know. More is to be seen. There's still definitely a lot more to figure out, so not everyone's life is freaking wasted at this point in society's, human's existence. But I don't know, the best we can do is just think and don't think, and act and don't act, do and don't do, but do it randomly, I guess. That's also another strategy, is just to act and think on complete random intervals. Like that's the strategy for, there's even like intelligent agent strategies. I'm talking about that, where that's their thing, is like they just move randomly until they get somewhere. And there's a chance that they might actually reach a solution. Like that's it's kind of a dumb agent, but like it's not really, at that point you're questioning whether it's intelligent or not, but it does reach the goal. So like, how stupid can it be? Well, pretty stupid it turns out. But maybe it's a strategy for when you get lost. It's just to do something random. That's also like coded in sometimes when agents, if they're stuck somewhere, if they're not moving, if they're trapped on a local minima, take a random jump somewhere, right? Leap into some unknown random territory, right? But if you're still trying to converge on that hill, metaphorically, keep doing the same steps that you're taking, right? And wait until you get stuck somewhere. That's when you take some random ass jump, right? You don't want to be, you don't want to get stuck at the local minima, metaphorically, but you also don't want to exist there perpetually, right? And be stuck there forever. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll just pinch it off there. We're close to time, and I didn't reach a conclusion, but I wrapped up enough of my thoughts to make it seem like I got something accomplished. I guess that's as good as a goal as I can reach some days, so I'll take it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.